Hi everyone, thanks for being here. I just wanted to make a video to reflect my experience and what I've been doing at the Fairplex vaccination site. And this is just my opinion, like I said, my experience. I think that with education, and especially by doing it in an entertaining way or a realistic human way, that you can see and feel safer about receiving the vaccine in the future, or being more aware of what the initiatives are that we're doing. And this is all in the same community that you might be part of. This is Pomona that I'm speaking about, and this is also my hometown, so it's very important to me to talk about these issues and talk about the work that's being done. And so I hope that you learn a thing or two from this video, and if you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask them below or to message me on Instagram. I'm always happy to talk to you guys about any questions you might have or concerns and clarify anything, because like I said, I think having the right information out there will definitely help us to get to our new normal and move on past this stage. So let's start. I'm gonna be answering your questions that I received on my Instagram Q&A. The first one was, how did you get that job? So that's a good question. I think I answered this in a post once on Instagram when I got my COVID vaccine, but basically I became a worker for the LA County Department of Public Health back in November. It's a contract position, but it is so that I can work with the COVID projects that are currently happening within the Department of Public Health. And I work on the multimedia department team. So as you might suspect, working at the vaccination site was like nothing I had ever thought would be part of my job description. But in January 2021, we received word that we were receiving the vaccine here in LA County, and we needed to distribute them effectively and quickly. So we were told, my department and many other departments across LA County were told that they were going to be deployed as mandated disaster workers to help with the mega sites that are going to be passing out the vaccines. So regardless of if you've ever had experience working on a site like this or on a project like this with vaccines and such, you were going to be working at them now. So we got to, take trainings and get the vaccine for COVID because we were going to be working with thousands of people each day. And so we fell into the tier of public health workers, even though at that time I was working from home in the multimedia department on my little computer, just editing videos and making trainings and such. So yeah, I became a worker at the vaccination site later in January of that month, and I've loved it. Every second of it I really enjoy. I've learned a lot. Like I said, I had to do a lot of trainings, so I learned about the vaccine. I actually created some of the trainings for my multimedia department job. I physically edited a lot of the training videos, so I actually took the time to watch them over and over again. So I know what goes into the vaccine, I know how it's prepared, I know how it's administered. I watched the safety videos about how to physically be safe at the different vaccination sites, and then of course once we were on site we were also trained in our given role about how to do that role proficiently and effectively. So that's that. So after being told that we were going to work on site, we were given a schedule that included the dates that we were able to sign up for, and there was 5 different sites. The one closest to me was the Fairplex. I literally live down the street, so of course I chose Fairplex, and I was happy to see that this was going to be happening in our city. So yeah, I chose Fairplex. All of my coworkers kind of chose different places that were closer to them. I think I'm the only one that lives in Pomona, so I was the only one I knew for sure would be working here. Other places included the Six Flags Magic Mountain location, Forum in Inglewood, Downey, Balboa Island. I think there's a few more that I'm missing, but yeah, so we had options, and I really didn't care to sign up with anybody specifically at my location. I just knew I wanted to get it done because this was something we had to choose quickly and schedule for ourselves quickly. So of course I checked in with my supervisor. She gave me the go ahead, and my first day at Fairplex I only knew one other person, and from then on out, all the other shifts I've taken haven't been with anyone that I know, but I get to meet people every day. So now I'm gonna go into what a day looks like for me. And I'll start by saying that it's definitely always changing. I've been working there since January 2021. It's currently March, and I've been working about one shift each week, usually a weekend shift so that it doesn't conflict with my work week. And it's different every time, so there's always changes. And so just like as a disclaimer, if I mention anything and it's not accurate in the future, or maybe it's not happening like today or yesterday, then maybe it's just because it's changed. It's constantly changing. I worked there on Saturday. Today's Monday that I'm filming this, and it was way different than my first week that I worked at the Fairplex in January. For example, we have like physically we have tents now, we have snack bar, we have lanes that make sense, we have better security trafficking, like communication. I think is really what changed a lot, is learning that there's so much that goes into this. And besides that, it's also the constant changes in the tiers of who's eligible. So we see different demographics every time. My first week there, it was 65 and up, so everyone there was 65 and up. It was mainly just senior citizens coming, or they would have their kids in the car to drive them, or if there was a language barrier, they had their kids in the car to translate for them. Which goes to my next question that I received on Instagram, which was, do you see a lot of diversity within the ethnicities and races that you come across that are getting their appointments at the Fairplex? I would say yes, and I'm not sure if that's entirely because of my location. Being at Fairplex, I think we have a demographic that's primarily Latino and Black, and although it's not purely Latino and Black people that I see coming in to get their appointments, there is, I think, a lot more than there would be at a different location. Like, I don't know, I'm not going to compare because I don't know, but I know for sure I do see a lot of different ethnicities. Definitely a lot of white people, as the data shows. There's a lot of discrepancies. We can go into that later in another video, but there's action being taken towards that, but definitely it's scattered. And I think it does rely heavily on the tiers that are eligible. This week that I was there, we saw a lot of young people. I think that's because of the food industry tier being open. You get a lot of people who work at fast food restaurants or grocery stores, retail stores, stuff like that. So definitely the demographic is changing, and because of that, the appointments also vary as well. So at Fairplex, we are open, I think, from 9 to 4. The last appointment is at 4. My shift starts at 8, and I get there, go through my trainings, recap, see if there's anything that's changed, check in with my shift lead, and the people that are working with you are always changing. So there are constantly new staff at the site each day because, as I mentioned, the schedule is like you make it yourself. So if there's a shift open, you take it, and there's about 200 or so employees that are working at the shift each day of the week. And so it's always new people. I think the only people that are regulars are the leads. So as you can imagine, it makes it hard to keep the flow of things sometimes. That's why there might be a lot of inconsistencies, definitely because of the employment that we have there. Right now, they're not taking volunteers, so at this point, everyone that's working there has probably worked there before. There are not a lot of new employees working at the sites. Everyone has pretty much worked since January. We are being told that we're going to continue the mega sites until April. At the beginning of January, we were only told it would last about 4 weeks, like until February. I've taken on more shifts each week just because I really like it, but at this point it's not mandatory for my department to do so. We're not taking volunteers anymore, so one of my questions was, how do I sign up? Unfortunately, we're not taking volunteers anymore, and I think that was only in the beginning stages that we were asking for volunteers because we had up to like 4,000 appointments a day to take care of. Now there's only, I know on Friday when I worked there was only about 2,000 appointments that we had, so I'm not sure if that's because we're leveraging off the amount of appointments that we're taking, or there's a shortage of vaccines every now and then. But yeah, we're not taking volunteers, unfortunately. I think that they would appreciate knowing that there's a lot of people that want to help but unfortunately sometimes we're also overstaffed. There's been a time when I had to get sent home early just because I was kind of like not given a real role. But now I'll go into what the role is that I'm currently doing, that I love doing, and that I'm busy doing all day long. Our shifts are 8 to 10 hours, by the way, I forgot to mention. So we check in around 7:30 and our last appointment is around 4. Sometimes we stay until 5 or 6 to clean up. There's been a time where I stayed 12 hours. I can explain that in another video. But yeah, so for the main job that I've been doing recently is I've been working in registration. So what that looks like is I check into the main tent at around 8 o'clock, 7:30. We get screened, so we have like a temperature, thermometer, security scans you, checks you, and makes sure that you're an employee. So you bring your badge. I usually just wear it on a lanyard all day long so that they don't question it. Recently they've been giving wristbands so that you don't have to keep showing your badge. We also check in with a QR code on our phone now instead of paper, so everything's digital. Once we get inside, we are given our role. So they check you in, they tell you right then and there what your role is. And if you've worked there before, like I've worked about 8 shifts already, then they kind of just tell you like, just go back to what you were doing before. So in that way, there are people that are trained already. There are people that are already aware of what the shifts are. We're all very experienced at this point. So I go to my unit tent. It's usually unit 2 or unit 3. Doesn't really matter. They all do the same function. And I get a computer. So for my registration task, I get a computer. I log into our website. I think it's my CalVax. It's always changing. It used to be a different program called PrepMod. If you've made an appointment, then you might be familiar with it. It's just a site that pulls up your information. So as a patient, we have your information that you made when you made your appointment. So what it looks like is the cars will pull up to the tent at their appointment time. There's 2 spots, one little table with a nurse and a registration person. The other, each lane has 2, so there's also another nurse with the registration person. And under the tent there are other nurses that are creating the vaccine. So they're physically creating the vaccine right then and there from the little dosage that they're given. And they count specifically how many appointments we have and physically count the cars as like another way to check that we're not just making vaccines willy-nilly. Like, it's very proficient. And so from there the nurses will give us the vaccine to the car. That position is another position. It's called a runner. So they're actually bringing us materials. But yeah, at the beginning of my shift, after I get my computer and I log into my program, and we go through a little bit of a training if there's any new information on that interface or the database, then I pick a station where I meet my nurse. And I get to choose which station most of the time, so I really am just like going on a blind date basically. Like, I meet my nurse for the first time. This is the person I'm going to work with for my 10-hour shift. And each time I've met someone, it's just a great experience. The nurses are typically from all over the country. They fly them in, and they're here for the 3-month duration or 2-month or however long that they're here for. And they always have amazing stories. So I meet a new nurse every time, and I work with her or him on that station. So what I do specifically with my nurse is when the car pulls up, me or her or him will approach the vehicle, ask them who it is that's getting the vaccine. At this point, they've already been through the line of eligibility, checking in. By the time they get to us at the tent, they should already be ready to prepare, themselves for the vaccine. So they've already gone checked in, made sure they're eligible, they have an ID, they have the correct forms, they're ready. So I ask them who's getting the vaccine, because sometimes it's more than one person in the car. At this point, anyone 16 and up can get their vaccine, especially, like I said, if they are working in like the different tiers that are eligible and they're a minor, they're still able to come. So sometimes it's a parent with a kid, not a kid, but 16, different things. So I always check to say, who is it that's receiving the vaccine? Then I go and I ask that person specifically for their ID, their license. I take their license back to my little wheelie chair desk that's right there next to the tent. I open my laptop and I check for their name. So I'll search Pomona, I'll search their name will pop up, I click on it, and from there all their information is populated. It's the information that they submitted when they made their appointment. So it'll tell me their date of birth, their occupation, they're eligible, and a lot of different questions. So I have to check that none of the questions are answered yes, because then it could be a problem. For example, are you allergic to anything? Have you ever had a really bad reaction to something? If they mark yes, then I tell my nurse. And the whole time my nurse is there with me, just talking to the person that's about to receive the vaccine, introducing themselves. How are you? I'm nurse so-and-so. How's your day been? My assistant's getting you ready. She'll be 1 second. So then at that time, I inform the nurse if there's anything on that list that says yes. And it could be something minor. Like one of the questions is, have you ever had COVID? Have you ever tested positive for COVID-19? If they say yes, it's not really a big deal. It's just so that we're aware of that. And then once I have the go-ahead, I ask the person which arm they prefer. And the whole time I'm marking it in my program, my database, so I'm with my laptop. They said left arm. Okay, I mark left. It's intramuscular. It's, I'm just making sure all these things are correct and they're lining up with what's being said. And then I double check with my nurse. The nurse asks for verbal consent from the person who's receiving the vaccine. And if they say yes, the nurse will come get the vaccine from our little push cart that also has, Band-Aids, stickers, gauze, first aid kit stuff. And she takes the vaccine over, gives them the vaccine. The whole time I'm still typing in my computer that they are giving consent, marking yes to everything on the checklist, click finish. And then when my nurse is done, she'll come back, put the sharp into the sharps container, and that's my cue to go over and give the person their vaccination card. So here's mine, for example. You probably received this if you already had your COVID vaccine, but I'm also the person that writes this down. So a lot is going on while the nurse is doing her thing. I'm writing the person's name based on their ID that they gave me, their date of birth, writing the lot number. So each vaccine for that day has a lot number that can be tracked. So that number is given to us at the beginning of our shift when the vaccines are being prepared. So I write down the lot number, Pfizer, because at Fairplex we're doing Pfizer. I write the date, the site, I write Pomona, and on the back I write the return date. So for Pfizer, it's 21 days. So I write the date on the back and I give them their card, their ID, and now we actually have a pamphlet that has more information about COVID. We didn't used to have that, so I think it's really nice. So the nurse says their goodbye, asks them if they have any questions after she puts on the Band-Aid. They usually are good to go, so that's when I go over, give them their card, tell them to return in 21 days, and tell them to head on down the exit. They're gonna wait for 15 minutes in an observation lot that we have designated. And that's another role, a non-clinical role, is for people like me who aren't nurses. You get to just help with that flow. And there are nurses on that side as well in case anyone does have a reaction in that 15-minute parking lot to observe and make sure that if anyone does have a reaction, then they are quickly, helped and assessed. And if they need be, there is an ambulance on site, there's paramedics, and they're able to assist them. So yeah, that's what I do. This is handy. I tell them to keep it with them, bring it back for their second dose. So we have a lot of people come in for their second doses as well at Fairplex. Sometimes there are designated appointment days. I haven't been there on a day that's specific, but I have heard of them where it'll be a specific day, like only for people who have second dose appointments or only for food agriculture people, stuff like that. So that's what I do. It's very busy. Lately the cars, the flow of traffic has been a lot lower. I think maybe this specific tier of appointments are with people that are a lot more concise. I think with the 65 and up group, people just came early. They were there at 7, just parked until we opened at 9, and it was just traffic from 9 to 10. But now it's a lot more spaced out. There's time where it's kind of a lull. You get to just sit and chit chat with your nurse for a couple minutes, or I like to prepare the cards. So if there's free time, I'll just start writing the dates, like dates I can fill out just easy and have them ready, or add the lot number, anything that'll make it run smoother. That's pretty much what I do currently. So that registration job just it's really just easy for me now to get the hang of it. But yeah, I meet people all the time and I love it because, like I said, I don't really get to see people outside of work because I work from home. And so when I get to meet the nurses that are from out of state, or I get to meet, you know, people that are doing my job too, like the registration people, there's one at each cart. So there's like 20 of us at a given time. And we're usually all vaccinated since we are all county workers and we were all given the vaccine, so I feel safe. We're also all wearing PPE, which is protective equipment, personal protective equipment. So we're wearing a face shield, a double mask, gloves. The nurses are wearing gowns, anything that makes them feel more comfortable and makes the person receiving the vaccine feel safe and comfortable as well. So we basically get like a 30-minute break at some point in the day, usually like noon, anytime from like 11 to 1. While we're at lunch, we close that lane so the nurse and the registration person go together. That's been the most effective way, is just to end that lane, then, you know, switch off, rotate. At the end of the day, at the last appointment, we just close up shop. So the security at the gate, the Fairplex gate, will, you know, have a walkie-talkie and tell the unit leads like that was our last car. So we'll just get the go-ahead to start cleaning up. So we'll take all of our like wheelie chair and computer, we'll put everything away, plug it in. The tents stay up, the cones stay up. We don't really like take down that kind of stuff, but we put everything away. We don't have leftover doses of vaccines. I know people ask me that all the time. We don't do walk-ups, we don't throw anything away. That's not the case for Fairplex, so we don't waste anything and we don't have leftovers prepared that we just give away. We used to vaccinate our staff, so I think we still do. At this point, I think everyone's vaccinated, but at some point in the day, the shift lead will go around and ask you as an employee, would you like to receive your vaccine today? Most people would say yes, like at the beginning, like in January. I had already gotten vaccinated before I started, and I got Moderna, which is not offered at Fairplex, and you can't mix the vaccines, so I couldn't say yes to my second dose there. I had to go to a different location. But yes, we would vaccinate our employees who needed to be immunized, but we wouldn't waste anything. We count specifically, like I said, like we count during the day, how many cars are there, how many appointments we're planning on having. The doses are created right then and there, so nothing goes to waste. I definitely think that this is an advancement towards our new normal. I don't think we're ever going back to what we had pre-COVID, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to, you know, have this new understanding. I think in the future we are going to expand, you know, hopefully we're able to do more. We're able to take more people. We're able to have a lane designated for, you know, buses, make it more public, make it more efficient with, you know, more and more people being added to the tiers. For now, it's going pretty smoothly. Like I said, it's a lot of ups and downs. I'm gonna be able to make more videos about this topic if it's something you guys want to hear more about. I have a lot of stories to share if that's something that's interesting to you all. Share them in a way that, of course, keeps the protection and privacy of everybody. But like I said, I am happy to share and be transparent and be educational. If this is something that you want to hear more about, or if you have any questions, feel free to comment, like this video, subscribe to me if this is something you want to see more of. And thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.